Welcome to the Cthulhu Sleep Anthology. What you're about to hear is a bit of an experiment, an 8-hour soft-spoken actual play journey designed specifically to help you drift off. This is a long-term project that I've been piecing together slowly, session by session, over the span of a few weeks. I've been interested in Call of Cthulhu for a while, and I thought these specific solo game books would be the perfect way to test out an idea I've had, using my voice in the ultimate soothing sense. These books belong to the Alone Against series from Chaosium. They are a unique collection of solo adventures that act as a gateway into the world of Call of Cthulhu. Think of them as more of a mature version of the choose-your-own-adventure books you might have grown up with. Linear and focused, but powered by dice, character stats, and a very real sense of cosmic dread. And I know many people look for videos to fall asleep to, usually rain sounds or ambient drones, but I haven't really seen a TTRPG version of that. I thought it would be cool to create a space where story and sleep meet. Just to set the stage, the games I'll be playing are Alone Against the Flames. That's the one I'm starting with. And they aren't your typical open world hex crawls. They are more akin to the classic choose-your-own-adventure style of games, as I said before. They are linear, focused, and intimate. It's just me, these books, and the dice. Whether you are here to follow the mystery or just to have some company while you drift off, thanks for listening. Now, it's time to get warm and toasty as I dive in. Alone Against the Flames by Gavin Inglis. Introduction. This is a solo adventure for the Call of Cthulhu game. It is a horror story set in the 1920s where you are the main character and your choices determine the outcome. It is also designed to lead you through the basic rules of the game in a gradual and an entertaining fashion. Although most such adventures are played with your friends, this one is just for you. Before you begin to play, make sure you have a copy of the Call of Cthulhu 7th edition Quick Start rules and a blank investigator sheet. You'll also need a pencil, an eraser, and some role-playing dice. You don't need to read the rules before you start playing. Just settle in a comfortable chair before a roaring fire. Then read on and follow the instructions. On second thoughts, don't sit too close to the fire. The sun is high in the sky, a merciless ball of heat. You feel scorched by the time you reach the bus halt in front of Osborne's drugstore. It's a relief to put down your heavy cases and take off your hat for a moment. You fan your face. It has been a long summer here, in your hometown, and yet a curiously empty one. You look across the street, at the grubby butcher shop, the grocer's with its faded awning, and the shabby tobacconist. Mistrustful faces glare at you as they pass, eyeing your clothes and luggage. It was your parents' choice to live here, not yours. You were happy down south as a child, among Providence's white-walled houses and leafy churchyards. Perhaps this new job in Arkham will supply the change you need. Yet, everybody you know in the world lives here. You know nobody in Arkham, not one soul. You ask yourself one last time if you are doing the right thing. The answer is here. None of your supposed friends have come to see you off. You are alone. Whatever challenges lie in Arkham, it will be a new life, and a brave one. A small, gray motor coach approaches and rattles to a stop. You put your hat back on and pick up your cases. Two young men with sullen expressions alight from the coach. One looks you up and down before heading away. The driver also steps down, glancing at you before crossing the road to visit the tobacconist. When he returns, he is rolling a cigarette between his yellowed fingers. He gives it a final twist and examines you as he reaches for his matchbox. He is a thin man in his 50s, dressed in a stained shirt with the bus company emblem, yet his eyes are sharp in their dark sockets. Where to? You show him your ticket for Ossipee. From there, you will connect to Rochester and Portsmouth, before the coastal line to Newburyport, and finally, Arkham. You should be able to afford a rail ticket for at least some of the way. Otherwise, this will be the first of many long bus trips. The driver scratches the match and lights a cigarette. The end flares as he takes a draw. Then he exhales and gestures to the back of the coach. Luggage rack's up there. Look at your investigator sheet. At the top, you have spaces for 8 characteristics: strength, constitution, power, dexterity, appearance, size, intelligence, and education. Allocate the following values among them, writing in the large square besides each: 40, 50, 50, 50, 60, 60, 70, and 80. If you would like more information about what these characteristics mean, read page 6 of the Quick Start rules. Okay, so I assigned the numbers and I did it as such. So my strength is 60, my constitution is 80, dexterity is 70, intelligence is 50, size is 50, power is 60, appearance is 40, and education is 50. The driver smokes and watches as you drag your cases to the back of the motor coach. The rack is set inconveniently high on the vehicle. You get a grip on the heavier case. If your size is 40, go to 23. If your size is higher than this, go to 38. So my size is 50, so I will go to 38. The driver continues to enjoy his cigarette, watching with keen interest as you struggle with the cases. You grit your teeth and heave the second one into place. Perhaps the residents of Arkham will have better manners. The driver flicks his cigarette into the gutter and steps into the motor coach. Its engine coughs into life. You board, grateful that you will be the only passenger for the initial part of your trip, at least. With mixed emotions, you watch from the window as the tired avenues of your old home slip behind you, receding into the distance. For a few minutes, you can still see the church spire over the brow of a low hill. Then the road dips, and it too is gone. Arkham is your new home. You will travel there and make a new start. You will see 2 smaller boxes to the right of each characteristic value. Halve each value, rounding down, and write the result in the upper right box. Also, divide each value by 5, again rounding down, and write the result in the lower right box. We will use these numbers later. In the strip below, you will see tracks that record sanity and magic points. Beginning sanity is equal to your original power, and beginning magic points are the same as the value you've just assigned for power divided by 5. Mark these on the tracks. The coach putters through the countryside. At first, the interior is stifling and your stomach lurches with every bend in the road. However, the driver opens his window, and by switching seats, you find a spot where the breeze hits your face. You soon relax into the journey, observing the quaint little hamlets that the coach serves. A heavyset woman boards at one settlement and gives you a polite nod. She gets off at the next one. The road raises a little, passing cornfields and orchids. The leaves are turning and the trees are alive with glorious reds and golds. You've just begun to doze when the driver takes a tight bend at speed. Add size and con together. Divide the total by 10, rounding down. This is the starting value for your hit points. Mark it on your investigator sheet. Your current total may drop, but it is unlikely to exceed the starting value. You also have a luck score. Roll 3 6-sided dice. We call this 3d6. If you are new to role-playing, you can read about role-playing dice and their terminology on page 6 of the Quick Start rules. Multiply your 3d6 roll by 5 to get your beginning luck score and mark it on your investigator sheet. Now you must make a roll against your dex. Roll 1d100. This means rolling 2 10-sided die and using 1 value for tens and 1 value for the units. You must choose which is which before you roll. If you rolled equal to your dex or less, you pass the roll. If you rolled greater than your dex, you failed the roll. You may be tempted to skip such rolls and simply pretend you always pass, but Call of Cthulhu is a game of mystery and horror. The terrible disasters that can befall your character are part of the fun. You will not necessarily have more fun if you pass every roll than you would have if you failed. If you pass the dex roll, go to 261. If you failed the dex roll, go to 59. Now I have my D10 die, and I have a percentile die, so that's what I'm going to use personally. And I'm going to roll now to see if I pass this dex roll. My dex is 70, so I need to get under 70. And that is a 12, so that is a success. A desperate yell awakens you. You feel yourself slide from the seat as the driver spins the wheel and the motor coach plunges off the road. You grab hold of the seat in front, just in time to prevent a painful fall. The coach stops with a thump. Now you see what has happened. A Fordson tractor has stopped in the road and your driver has had to swerve to avoid this steel obstacle. He leaps from his seat into the road, unleashing a string of curses at the farmer. You take a moment to catch your breath. Perhaps you should offer assistance? But the driver has already returned. He backs the coach up a little and threads it around the tractor, glaring at the farmer. You resume your journey. The driver takes the curves with more caution than before. He glances over his shoulder at you a couple of times. "Sorry about that," he says. "That fellow was dumber than a hog. I'm Silas. What's your name?" The accident was at least as much Silas's fault as the farmer's, but it doesn't seem shrewd to antagonize a man while he is driving you through the middle of nowhere. Make up a name for your character and record it on your investigator sheet. You may add your age. For the purposes of this adventure, your character should probably be aged between 23 and 36. The coach turns onto a narrower road, which weaves uphill through woodland. Silas becomes chatty. "Going to Arkham, eh? Can't say I ever heard of the place. Went to Boston once. Didn't like it. Too much hustle and bustle. You got family there? Special someone waiting?" The afternoon is wearing on. You see no harm in confiding in Silas about your new life. "A job, eh? What's your line?" As far as naming my character, I'm going to call her Mary Baptiste. And I'm going to choose an occupation for her, and we're going to go with private investigator. You skirt around the details of the profession in your usual way, mentioning only that you have helped the police to clear up various problems in the past. Your heart pounds a little faster as you think of the post you have secured at the Blackwood Detective Agency. You've had enough of investigating marital infidelity and bank clerks on the take. It sounds like the Blackwood Agency is just the opportunity you need to cut your teeth on some real villainy. Silas narrows his eyes, but he says nothing. Your credit rating skill is 20%. Your occupation skills are art, photography, disguise, law, library use, psychology, spot hidden, and one of either charm, fast talk, intimidate, or persuade. You may also pick any other skill except Cthulhu Mythos as a personal specialty. Allocate the following values among these occupational skills, writing in the large square beside each: 70, 60, 60, 50, 50, 50, 40, and 40. Ignore any starting value already mentioned on the investigator sheet. You realize Silas hasn't made a stop since the incident with the tractor. The motor coach winds its way uphill. However, your thoughts are interrupted as the road crests a ridge and you are treated to a magnificent view of the vista below. A creek snakes through the valley, breaking the rich autumn palette of the tree line. In the distance, the white mountains rise into a hazy cloud. There is no settlement, not even a cabin, as far as the eye can see. Birds drift through the treetops, and you can just make out what might be two white-tailed deer lingering by the water. Perhaps you are making a mistake by moving to the city. Could you survive on your own in this lush wilderness? You have a base ability in most skills, listed in brackets after the skill name on the investigator sheet. For instance, you have 20% in climb and a base dodge equal to half of your dex. Choose 4 skills which are not your occupation skills, nor Cthulhu Mythos. These are your personal interest skills. Boost each of these by 20. At this point, you may like to calculate half and 1/5 values for each skill, in just the same way you did for your characteristics. Remember to round down. If you're bored by calculations, you can leave the math until it becomes necessary. For the 4 skills I'm going to choose, my personal interest skills, I'm going to choose Dodge, Listen, First Aid, and Drive. So Dodge will go up to 55, Listen is now 40, First Aid is 50, and Drive is now 40. The motor coach rattles on through the hills and Silas lapses into silence. The sky darkens behind you, pinks tinting the clouds as the sun descends. Finally, a welcome sight comes into view, a settlement on the crest of a hill. This doesn't look like the pictures you've seen of Ossipee, but perhaps you can persuade Silas to stop while you stretch your legs. Minutes later, a harsh stuttering from the engine interrupts your reverie. Silas frowns and rattles the gear stick. The motor coach falters in its ascent. Silas utters a curse you don't recognize and grinds his teeth, struggling at the rail. You seem to inch up the hill until you reach the first buildings, low dwellings constructed from a rough red stone. Silas wrestles the coach into a small bay off the road. He scrambles from his seat and makes for the engine compartment. You must now choose to make a roll against Drive Auto or Psychology. If you choose Drive Auto, you need to roll equal to or less than the skill value. If you choose Psychology, you need a hard success. This is a roll equal to or less than half of the skill value. You may attempt only one skill roll. So I'm going to go with Psychology. Ooh, but it is a hard success if I go against Psychology, so that means I'd have to go with the smaller number, which would be 25. I'd need to get a 25 or lower. But I could do Drive Auto, which is just a regular roll, and my drive is 40. So let's roll that and see what we get. That is a 50. Over 40, that is a failure. Silas opens the engine compartment open and sticks his head inside. The hot metal pops and sizzles. He pokes at various components, then withdraws and wipes his brow, smearing it with dark grease. I ain't sure what's wrong. Might be the oil pressure. Might be something knocked off kilter when we took that spill. Can't do much until the engine cools neither. And with the light failing, I reckon we'll be here through the night. He wipes his hands on a rag. The shadows from your surroundings are already long, and the air is chilly. You feel stiff from the journey, and a night in this rickety coach sounds unappealing. Silas sees your dismay. This here's Ember Head, miles from any place. I only came through twice a week. But the folks here are good people. May Ledbetter keeps a spare room. She'll look after you. Up that alley, turn right, first house on the left. He scratches his cheek, looks again into the engine compartment, and spits on the ground. Meet me back here at 8 in the morning, and we'll see how's we stand. To look for May Ledbetter's house, go to 267. To ask Silas where he will spend the night, go to 251. To challenge Silas about the breakdown, go to 257. So I have 3 options here. I could look for May Ledbetter's house. I am kind of curious about where Silas is going to be spending the night. Let's do that. Let's ask Silas where he is staying for the night. You ask about Silas's plans. He gives the engine a sour glance before answering. I've got acquaintances here in the village. Reckon one of them owes me a favor. Enough for bed and breakfast in any case. He stares at his grubby hands. Probably won't stretch to a hot bath. You don't seem to have a lot of options. You fetch your cases from the back of the motor coach. The last thing you need is for all your worldly possessions to disappear into some stranger's hovel overnight. You drag your cases between the sullen buildings. You feel surprisingly weary, considering you have spent all day sitting down. Silas's directions lead you to a modest dwelling with a slate roof. Nameplate reads, Ledbetter, and underneath, a sign in neat copper plate reads, Lodging Room. The lane around you is gloomy, but a lamp flickers in the window. Breeze chills your face. You're not about to begin your new life by sleeping in the street. You rap on the weather-beaten door. After a moment, you hear footsteps inside the house. A bolt is drawn back and the wooden door swings open. A figure with loose curls and a rough-looking house dress peers at you. Her gaze takes in your traveling suit and your cases. Her voice has a slight Irish lilt. Hello. Should I take it as you're looking for a room for the night? You inquire as to her rates, suppressing a grimace. As far as you've seen, the village does not offer you many alternatives. Oh, you'll find them very reasonable, she says. You look tired. I'm May. Come inside and we'll talk over a cup of tea. The Ledbetter house feels cramped, with a low ceiling and simple fittings, but it is well kept and a cheerful fire crackles in the grate. The aroma of the tea is soothing and the cup warms your fingers. Have you come to Ember Head for the festival? Asks May. To explain what happened with Silas in the coach, go to 14. To ask about the festival, go to 21. I'm going to explain what happened with Silas in the coach. Let's do that. May shakes her head and you glimpse a moment of deep-seated anger in her green eyes. He always drives too fast. Thinks the road is made for him and him alone. He hit a mare some years back. That was a terrible thing. You should have seen the state of the coach. You'd be surprised at the damage done. She sips her tea and gazes past you, into the corner of the room. With living here, though, we can't afford to antagonize the man. He's about the only link we have to the world at large. And he's not a bad soul at heart. I suppose that going the same route for 15 years makes a man careless. You have to forgive him. May goes silent for a long moment, then her eyes flick back to you. But you didn't come here to listen to me blather, and you must be hungry. I can rustle up you a bit of stew. How would that be? You ask again about her rates, and May names a price so low you accept it without hesitation. The room is small but comfortable, and the stew dark and hearty. After dinner, you have a couple of hours before your usual bedtime. There are a few things we can do, but I'm going to walk around outside and get my bearings. May's brow creases when you announce your intention to take a stroll. Mind how you go, she says. Ember Head's surrounded by cliffs and we don't have your fancy street lamps here. Take the lantern and watch your step. Outside, you see what she means. The sky is overcast and only a few glimmers of moonlight peek from the clouds. Without the heavy lantern, you would be walking in near total darkness. You cannot hope to get an overview of the village tonight. May Street is a narrow passage hemmed in by squat, dark dwellings. At the end, however, it opens up. A wide thoroughfare leads off to your right. A crude sign names it Silbury Street. To the left, a few yards away, your light picks out the crooked posts of a simple fence, and beyond that, the ground drops away into darkness. You take a couple of steps closer, but you can see nothing. Air from below cools your face. Then some instinct makes you look around. An ink-black figure stands in the road, about 20 yards behind you. It stares at you. You form the sudden impression that it will run at you and throw you off the cliff edge. This is unsettling. Seeing it has been spotted, the figure slips down an alley. I have two options. I can confront the dark figure, or I can return to the safety of the Ledbetter house. I think for tonight, we will return to the Ledbetter house. You flee down the narrow street, the lantern swinging in your grasp. You reach the door and pound it urgently. May is surprised to see you so soon. The air up here can tire you out if you're not used to it, she says. You glance back once before you close the door. The dark figure is standing against the wall at the end of the street, still staring at you. Or is it? The murk may be deceiving your eyes. You slide the heavy bolt into place. May has settled back into her chair, but now she blinks and yawns. I believe I'll turn in. When would you like breakfast? As May stands, you hear a clunk behind you. You look over your shoulder, but all you can see is a wooden door, securely closed. May tuts, the young lady of the house. She'll have been listening to us. Ruth, come and greet our guest. There is a short pause, then the door creaks open. Two wide eyes peer at you from the gap, between tousled hair and a rough nightgown. What do you say? The eyes blink. Pleased to meet you. Now get back to bed. The door closes again. My daughter, Ruth. 10 years this summer. She's a delight and a torment, all in one. Don't worry. She sleeps in with me. She'll not disturb you. Good night now. You retire to your room. It is a little chilly, but you are too tired to worry about lighting the fire. The sheets are clean and the bed soon warms up. The silence outside is strange after living in a town for so long, but you soon drop off. You dream of fire in the grate, coruscating colors shimmering through the dancing tongues of flame. At first they are tiny, almost microscopic, but they grow and grow until a kaleidoscope inferno spills from the fireplace, spreading across the floor, up the sheets. You wake with a start. Daylight glints through the curtains. You get up and examine the grate, blinking the sleep from your eyes. It is quite cold. It is quite cold. If you have taken any damage, you may heal 1 hit point back for your night's sleep. May seems to have no running water, but has supplied some in a ceramic jug. You freshen up at the washstand and go in. She cooks a hearty breakfast and leaves you in peace to eat. At about 7:30, you are paid up, packed, and ready to go. You bid May goodbye, and she wishes you the best for your new career in Arkham. You are already tired of your heavy bags. Hopefully Silas has repaired the motor coach and you can resume your long journey. Sourpuss he might be, but the old driver seemed to understand his vehicle well enough. You pause to check your watch. Still 20 minutes early, and round the final corner. The motor coach is gone. You put your bags down and search the area, trekking up and down slopes and around corners. At the edge of the village, you trace the long road back as it winds across the hills. 8 o'clock comes and goes. There's no coach to be seen. A passing villager notices your bags. Looking for the bus? I heard him take off at first light. He's due back in 3 or 4 days. If you need a place to stay, May Ledbetter rents a room. The man raises his hat to you and strolls on into the village. You curse Silas under your breath. Perhaps he went for parts. But you do wonder if the old goat has stranded you here on purpose. May is doing laundry and looks surprised to see you again. Forgot something? When you explain the situation, she offers to store your bags while you try to arrange alternative transport. You are grateful to relinquish the load. Nobody here has anything like a car. She strokes her chin and narrows her eyes. Maybe you could find somebody with a horse and a cart for your bags. I could ask around later. Try Mr. Winters at the village hall. He'll know if anyone will. Or ask among the artisans. Their workshops are first left on Silbury Street. She reaches over and squeezes your wrist. Don't worry. I won't see you sleeping in the street, money or no money. You thank May and turn to face the village. You wander the streets of Ember Head without any particular destination in mind. The village is built on a relatively flat upland with splendid views. To the north, the hazy tips of the White Mountains reach for the heavens. To the south, the sparkling waters of Lake Winnipesaukee touch the horizon. The village itself takes less than 5 minutes to cross from edge to edge. You arrived on the winding road to the west. The only other road leads to the south, following a lower ridge of land as it turns east. In the southwest of the village, an open grassy space borders a ruined church, its graveyard cresting the cliffs. To the northeast, the 3 main thoroughfares meet at a raised black metal structure. It looms stark against the blue sky. I can now do a few things. I can ask about transport at the local general store, seek out the village hall, walk down to the lower level and check out the eastern road. I can examine the large metal structure, explore the church, or look for local people with their own transport needs. Let's go with Ask about transport at the local general store. The general store is on a corner beside the main road, just before it plunges to the south. The shopkeeper is a brisk, immense lady with a starched apron and strong shoulders. She looks hard at your unfamiliar face. Transport? There's a motor coach comes through twice a week. Missed it? Truck brings in my supplies every second Tuesday, but he's not due until next week. She shrugs. It seems Ember Head is content to keep its distance from the outside world. You have enough money to buy 1 or 2 inexpensive everyday items here. Note them down on your investigator sheet. Remember, the year is 1927. The shop stocks no weapons except a dusty hunting knife, which you may purchase if you want. Okay, I think I will get that dusty hunting knife, but I'm going to get a notebook and a pencil and a flashlight. You're beginning to get your bearings in Ember Head. Would you like to explore some more? You may choose another option from those below. Do not repeat a previous choice. Once you have tried 4 options, or before that, if you are ready to move on, go to 3. Now, there are a few things I can do here in Ember Head. Let's go to seek out the village hall. The village hall backs against a cliff at the east end of Silbury Street. It's the largest building you've seen so far in Ember Head. It is, however, locked and shuttered. You walk around it, peering through gaps in the shutters. There seems to be one large room, presumably for community meetings, and a smaller annex which serves as an office and archive. One of the windows is bricked up, but at the main door, you can see no posted opening hours. Mr. Winters doesn't open up mornings this time of year, says a gray-garbed woman passing by. Best come back this afternoon. You ask whether the office has a telegraph. Don't know, she shrugs. Who would we call? You will have to try again later. You cross the street towards the church. As you glance to your left, your gaze alights on the large metal structure. Something bothers you about its positioning. You back up and look again. Yes, Ember Head's central thoroughfare points directly at the structure. It seems too precise to be a coincidence. You press on and draw into the shadow of the church. The building's in a sorry state. The top of the steeple is missing, a ragged gash of splintered boards marking its absence, and the floors beneath it have collapsed. It appears to have torn through the roof of the main building as it fell. Only the back half is still intact. The white paint, which once covered the church, has yellowed and peeled. It seems safe enough to explore the rear section. Old pews are stacked against the wall, choked with mildew. Most of the windows are broken. You guess this church has been disused for about 20 years. There's little more to interest you. Make a ride roll. You may have a bonus die. Roll the 10's percentage die twice and take the lower result. If you succeed, we'll see what happens next. My ride is 5%, so I have a very low chance of succeeding. So let's see how this goes. First roll is a 12. Second roll is a 19. That is a failure. Let's look for local people with their own transport needs. Not far from the Ledbetter house, on the north side of Silbury Street, there is an open courtyard. The rhythmic tattoo of a hammer seems to announce your approach. The courtyard is the busiest location you have yet seen in Ember Head. It is bordered by a ring of workshops. Some are brick buildings, some only rough huts. A blacksmith ceases to hammer, thrusting something red and glowing into a bucket of cold water. A weaver looks up from his loom, blinking at you a moment before returning to his shuttle. A potter, engraver, and carpenter each work in their own space, exchanging friendly banter. You move among the artisans, chatting about their work. Eventually, you bring up the question of export. Some of them send occasional packages with Silas. Some restrict their custom entirely to villagers. You receive no suggestions about alternative support. I will now make a psychology roll. And that is an 85, and my psychology is a 50, so that is a failure. Well, now I have tried 4 options, so now we will continue forward. Your morning exertions have left you hungry. You roam the streets of Ember Head looking for sustenance. There is nothing resembling the busy cafes of your hometown, or anything that might be called a restaurant. It is beginning to look like you'll have to get supplies from the general store when May Ledbetter comes down the street with a girl trailing in her wake. This must be Ruth. As she notices you, she races past her mother and approaches you with a smile. This is a different Ruth from the shy creature of last night. As she reaches you, she stops and stretches her arms up in celebration. She looks up into your eyes. Abruptly, the smile drops from her face and she looks several years older. "Get out before the festival," she hisses. "Get out." She blinks hard, then scuttles back towards her mother. May approaches, wrapping an arm around her daughter's shoulders. She smiles. "How are you getting on? Have you found transport?" Startled, you explain the frustrations of the situation. "I'd try Mr. Winters in the village hall. He's always in of an afternoon. You'll be hungry by now. Help yourself to any food in the house. The door's not locked." You glance at Ruth where she has squirreled herself behind her mother's leg. Her eyes implore you to silence. You take your leave of the Ledbetters and head towards their house. The door opens easily. In the low kitchen, you make a meal from the stodgy bread and leftover stew. A little window offers a view to the mountains. If you learned one thing this morning, it was that Ember Head streets hold little to occupy the visitor from out of town. But there are still about 5 hours of daylight remaining. You could take some provisions and the bare essentials from your luggage and set out in the hope of reaching another settlement before dark. Or you could ask advice from this Mr. Winters. Let's head to Mr. Winters in the village hall. Now, the village hall overlooks the lower north ridge of the village. You walk along Silbury Street to find it, conscious of the oppressive black metal structure framed at the end of the road. The shutters of the hall are open and some windows left ajar. There is no knocker, but a little bell over the entrance tinkles as you push the front door. Inside, a sturdy door to your right is marked private. To your left, an opening leads through to a bite room. You take a few steps inside. Benches line the walls and there are 2 notice boards mounted between the windows. You raise your hand to knock on the door, but it opens before you can complete the movement. The middle-aged gentleman behind it takes an involuntary step back, adjusting his spectacles. You hasten to apologize and introduce yourself. He steadies himself and peers at you. "I see. I'm Clyde Winters. Just visiting, you say? And you've come to see me? Care for some coffee? I usually take a cup around this time of the afternoon." His invitation seems genuine enough and a good opportunity to ask any questions that are on your mind. You step through the door marked private. The other side of the village hall is in marked contrast to the public space. The room is compact, lined with shelves of books and file alcoves. One corner is reserved for a tiny pantry and what is presumably a water closet. You study Mr. Winters as he fills the percolator. Although thin on top, his hair is oiled and neatly swept back. His suit is a sober affair, and well-tailored even if the cut is a little old-fashioned. A lesser man working alone might have loosened his bow tie for comfort. On the desk against the opposite wall, you notice what looks like a telegraph set. The telegraph? Much as we value our isolation, we do need the link sometimes. You were hoping to send a message? I must apologize. The line has been down for 2 weeks. I reported the fault, but of course, they're not so speedy when the problem lies in a rural area. I'm expecting a repair the day after next. I do appreciate how frustrating this must be. The coach is due in 3 days? But I think he's going west. Perhaps you might engage a wagon? One of the farmers might. You explain what you have asked a few of the residents already, but to no avail. I tell you what. Winters pours you a steaming cup of coffee. The dark liquid smells rich and strong. When the repair crew arrive, I'll ask them to take you back with them. How would that be? They might want $1 or $2 to grease the wheels, though. The day after tomorrow? It's less than ideal, but it's the first real opportunity you've had. As the light fades, you return to the Ledbetter house and eat a light supper. May is unusually taciturn. Ruth's eyes flick to yours several times during the meal. There is an urgency there you cannot quite interpret. Afterwards, May ushers the girl into their room. You have been in Ember Head for barely 1 whole day and you already feel confined by it, both geographically and socially. The evening seems to offer little. Let's try to attempt to speak to Ruth. In time, May returns to the kitchen and busies herself cleaning up. To speak to Ruth, you will need to get May to leave for a short while. You help with the dishes and try to think of some ruse. In time, an idea comes and you ask about Silas and his friends in the village. May narrows her eyes. He knows Troy on the other side of town, she says. Not sure I'd call them friends. More like an old feuding couple. But he probably spent last night at Troy's place. You ask May if she could visit Troy and ask if Silas mentioned any plans to return. May looks dubious. Right now? She asks. Without looking at your investigator sheet, decide how best to influence May. Be appealing to her emotions, by explaining how further delay threatens your career, or by trying to rush her into compliance. Then make a charm, persuade, or fast talk roll, respectively. I think I would like to appeal to her emotions. So let's make that charm roll and see how that goes. My charm is 15%. And I think I could have done persuade. Well, persuade is 10%, and my fast talk is 5%. So it does look like charm is the highest. 15% is low, though. Let's see. That is a 57 over 15, so I fail. May frowns and shakes her head. I'll be happy to go see him in the morning. I must see to Ruth for now. She's been a terrible handful today. Her bedroom door closes with a heavy clunk. The familiar surroundings of your guest room are becoming constrictive. The neat bed, small wardrobe, and dressing mirror have the feel of a prison cell about them. What are you still doing here in Ember Head? Your new life is elsewhere. You lie on the bed and stare at a small crack in the ceiling. You turn over the day's events, thinking through the little details you spotted. You are certainly weary from the elevation and the fresh air, but do you still feel safe here? Sleep presses down on you. You blink it back and sit up, trying to think through your situation. Everything in Ember Head seems to be working to stop you leaving. Perhaps the answer is to strike out at first light, to walk as far and as fast as you can. You can always return for your possessions, and if you lose them, you have nothing so precious that it cannot be replaced. A tiny creak draws your attention to the other side of the room. Slowly, almost silently, the doorknob is turning. You heave the door open, ready for a confrontation. May stands on the other side, wrapped in her bed jacket. She steps back in alarm. "You seemed not yourself," she stammers. I wanted to check up on you." You assure May you're in fine health and watch as she returns to her own bedroom. Once the door is closed, you borrow a kitchen chair to wedge under your door handle. Perhaps this piece of fortification will permit you a few hours of restful sleep. You eventually waken to the sound of feet in the street outside. Your night's rest has brought a new determination. Today, you will meet Ember Head on your own terms. The Ledbetter kitchen is empty, although bread and eggs have been laid out for your breakfast. There is a note from May explaining that she has taken Ruth out for a few hours. You make a quiet circuit of the village, pausing in unobtrusive places to watch the villagers. It is rather busy for this time in the morning. Yawning locals stream back and forward along the roads, carrying bundles of split logs to the side of what you've heard referred to as the beacon. You see two figures already up in its superstructure, arranging the wood. The festival bonfire will be most impressive. But do you intend to stay to see it? You suspect by now that something is amiss here. While the villagers are distracted, you may do some illicit investigation, or you may simply leave town without looking back. There are a few things. I can search May Ledbetter's bedroom, go alone to the village hall, take a closer look at the artisan's courtyard, spy on activity at the beacon, slip down to the East Road and flee for good. Fleeing for good does sound tempting, but I do have a curiosity about May Ledbetter's bedroom, so I think that's where I'm going to go. Despite her hospitality, you do not trust May Ledbetter. You return to her home quite openly. Where else would you go? Inside, the dwelling is still empty. You rap on the bedroom door and wait. Silence. You ease it open. The Ledbetter bedroom is in marked contrast to your own. Neat space. Dirty clothes are piled about the floor. On a rough quilt lie school books and cheap novels. You notice a raggedy old doll discarded down the side of the bed. Make a spot hidden roll. Okay, so my spot hidden is 70. Let's see. And that is a 60 under 70 success. You notice scrapes on the floorboards corresponding to the legs of the bed. With effort, you slide the bed away. There is a rug spread beneath it, and beneath the rug, a trap door. You ease it open. The dark space beneath is some kind of cellar. The daylight barely offers enough illumination to see, but a hot lantern during daytime would be very suspicious. You squeeze beneath the floor and glance around. Your first impression is that May keeps her junk here. There are many boxes of different sizes piled in untidy heaps. It takes a few seconds before you realize they are all traveling trunks or suitcases. There are about 20 of them. The implication hits you hard. Yet you maintain enough control to check the luggage tags. You count 8 or 9 different names before you stop. Scrambling back up to the bedroom, you close the trap door with trembling fingers, returning the bed to its place. You feel a deepening unease about Ember Head, and this day in particular. Finding out that information underneath her bed, she is obviously doing some nefarious stuff with people and their luggage, past trapped travelers. So I'm going to choose to slip down to the East Road and flee for good. As you approach the southern road that descends to the lower ridge, You see 4 villagers blocking the route, with farm tools and clubs. You veer off and head towards the west road. Your heart sinks as you see exactly the same scene at the other exit from the village. You are trapped. On the other side of May Ledbetter Street, you see a washing line with some baggy, crumpled clothes. It's not a lot to work with, but you use your own clothes as stuffing, improvise a hat, and change your gait to stooped shamble. Nobody gives you a second look as you limp towards the southern exit from the village. The guards are still at their station, scrutinizing passersby, but they are beginning to look bored. And now I need to make a hard disguise roll. So I believe since this is hard, I have to take half of my disguise. So disguise, it'd have to be 20 or lower to pass. Oh my God, that is an 11. That is a success. One of the guards nods to you as you shuffle past. It is an effort to maintain this half pace when your instincts tell you to run, but you keep it up until you are on the eastern road. Then you discard the disguise in a hole filled with mud. The sun is low in the sky as you head east from the village, making for the safety of the woods. The beacon breaks the horizon, imposing in silhouette. You maintain as fast a pace as you can until you reach the refuge of the tree line. Then you allow yourself to step off the road and take a breather. Almost 2 hours later, the sun sets. The darkness of the woods might be frightening, but your escape from Ember Head has given you new resolve. You strike on into the night. Not long afterwards, you hear hooves approaching fast. 2 sets. Your heart lifts, but they are coming from behind you. I need to make a stealth roll. My stealth is 20%, so I need to get under 20. And that is a 72. Failure. You press yourself against the biggest trunk you can find. 2 horses draw near, their riders holding up lanterns. Branches cast a maze of shifting shadows across you as they pass. To your dismay, one rider pulls his horse up short. Look, there! He stabs a finger towards you. To flee into the woods, I could go to another section, or I can fight the riders. Of course, I can try to flee further, but they are on horses, so I'm going to fight them, or at least try to. One rider has problems dismounting. You square up to the other, an older man with desperation in his eyes. Conduct close quarters combat using pages 12 and 13 of the Quick Start rules. You may need to refer to page 7 first to look up your damage bonus. The combatant with the higher dex acts first. You and the rider will take 1 action each combat round. You may fight back, rolling your brawl or dodge against each attack. Combat rolls are opposed rolls. Whoever gets the best level of success wins. The rider has a dex of 32 and a brawl skill of 30%. He has 9 hit points. Roll 1d6 every round. On an odd number, he will attack, and on an even number, he will dodge your attacks. His dodge skill is 15. He has a small club that does 1d6 damage. If you have a knife or similar weapon, each successful hit you make does 1d4 plus your damage bonus. If you are unarmed, the damage is 1d3 plus your damage bonus. Okay, so I am going to attack first since my dex is higher. My dex is 70% and the rider has a dex of 32, so I go first. I'm going to attack using my hunting knife that I got from the store. I'm glad I grabbed that. I'm going to use my skill roll, which is brawl, 60%, and see how that goes. Oof, that's a failure. That is an 89 over 60. So Since that was a failure, I'm going to roll a d6. And I rolled a 4, so he is going to dodge. The rider uses his dodge skill of 15% to defend. So I'm going to roll. And that is a 62 over 15, so he fails the defend. And it's an opposed roll, so I'm going to roll brawl again. I need to get under 60. That is 97, so I also fail on that opposed roll. So now I am in round 2. I'm going to act again. So I need to get a 60 or below. That is a 16, so that is a success. And so I roll 1d4 to see how much damage I do. And that is 2 damage. I'm going to roll the d6 to see if the rider dodges or attacks on his turn. And that's a 4, so it is even. He will try to dodge. Again, his dodge skill is 15. And that is a 44. He fails to dodge. And so he goes down to 7 health. And so now we are at round 3. Again, I'm going to use my hunting knife. And that is a 79 over 60. That is a failure. And so we need to see if the rider dodges or attacks me. And that is a 2. So he tries to dodge. And I rolled a 5. The rider is able to dodge my attack this round. And so we move to round 4. And that is a 53 under 60 for me. So that is a success. I roll a d4. And that is 4 damage. We're going to see if the rider chooses to try to dodge or attack on his turn. And that's a 4, so he's going to try to dodge. And I rolled a 1, so he is able to dodge that attack and takes no damage that round. And so we move to round 5. And I rolled a 42 under 60, so that is a successful hit. And that would be 2 more points of damage. We're going to see if the rider dodges or attacks. And that is a 6, so he tries to dodge. And that is a 51, so he fails the dodge. And I do 2 more damage. He goes down to 5 health. And so I go again. I rolled a 93, so that is a failure on my attack. A 93 over 60 is a failure. I'm going to roll for the enemy. I rolled a 3, so he is going to try to attack me. His brawl is 30%, so I need to roll 30 or lower for his attack on me to be successful. I rolled a 79, and so he misses. And I go back and I try to lunge with my hunting knife against this first rider. And that is an 11. That is a success. I'm going to roll damage. That is 4 points of damage. I'm going to roll to see if he dodges or attacks. And that's a 6, so he tries to dodge. I have to roll 15 or under for him. And that is a 54, so he is not able to dodge. And he takes 4 points of damage. His health is down to 1. Now, if I reduce the man to 4 or fewer hit points, we continue on. You beat the first rider to the ground and turn, breathing hard, to confront his companion. Holding his lantern up, he examines his fallen friend and reads the determined expression in your face. Then he looks back towards Ember Head, leaving his head left and right to see between the trees. "You win," he says. "I reckon it's too late by now anyway." He sets down his lantern and gathers up the other rider, slinging him over the horse with a grunt. Breathing hard, you watch him ride off. The lantern light becomes fainter and fainter, and finally winks out. You emerge onto a hilltop and take a moment to check your bearings. The sun will set in the west behind Ember Head, so you need to head. As you look at the village, several miles away, you see the beacon ablaze, an orange glow that lights up the sky and the surrounding woodland. Smoke billows towards the heavens, where the stars form a twinkling canopy against the midnight blue of eternity. You watch the scene for a few minutes, then turn away to continue your journey. For a moment, you're left with a strange impression. You thought that as you turned, one of the stars above the village moved, but that would be madness. Congratulations, you have survived this adventure. You may keep your investigator sheet and use it in another Call of Cthulhu scenario. If you have checkmarked the small box beside any skills, you will have a chance to improve them through experience. And that is the end of Alone Against the Flames.